Okay. By the way, the title is not accepting my accent. I always change last minute. So, okay. When I meet someone new, the usual question I tend to ask is, what irritates you the most? Or alternatively, what is your pet peeve? Over the course of my life, I found that people tend to bond easier, quicker, over a common hatred of enemy, instead of a common interest or a friend. Funny, right? But this is my observation, and I stand by it. So in light of this, I'd like to share one of my pet peeves, and it will be people looking for excuses. If there's one thing noble about me, I would say that I'm pretty okay with admitting my failures and mistakes, and I try as much as possible to stand up from where I fall. Finding excuses just aren't cool, and making excuses are even worse, and pure lame. However, I wish to confront my first speech, which happened 2 weeks ago. For those of you who weren't here 2 weeks ago, it wasn't my greatest moment. I wouldn't call this as an excuse, but it will be more of an analysis and a reflection of what went wrong. I would say I'm sort of a rebel myself, and somehow for my icebreaker speech, I didn't want to practice. I had this twisted self-definition in my mind that if I had meticulously prepared for a speech and memorized the speech word by word, then it isn't a speech anymore. It will be more like a reciting practice. And I was seeing people I admire, like the likes of Barack Obama, Trevor Noah, Martin Luther King, presenting on the stage. And somehow I imagined that if I had enough determination, I could do the same. And oh boy, I was wrong. I failed miserably. Well, not end of the world terrible, but certainly not living to my expectation. In short, I think I was trying to fly without having the ability to walk. And thinking back now, that was quite naive and funny, I would say. But fortunately though, I had an excellent speech evaluator, Lester. Lester recommended me that I could use the FRM formula to prepare for my next speech. I could talk about my family, F. I could talk about my occupation, O. I could talk about my recreation, R. And then you can even talk about what motivates me, M. Yes, Lester, oh yes, dear Lester, but the problem lies exactly here. My deepest fear is not about standing in front of the public. Rather, it is about revealing myself. This might be an irrational fear, and if I can think of an analogy, it would be the fear of height. I think when one is afraid of height, it is actually not the height itself that brings anxiety, but more about the potential danger of falling, which could lead to severe injury or even death. Therefore, the fear actually has a deeper root cause. But how does this relate to the fear of revealing myself? Well, I read an article in the past that, quote unquote, that says, the fear of public speech could be greater than the fear of facing death itself. This is quite a statement, and for some, it might sound like an exaggeration, but actually I find it very relatable. And the reasoning goes as this. In the ancient tribal society, if one was standing in front of the public, it is either a dueling situation or it is a judgment session. If you lose a duel, you'll probably die. If you're being judged by your peers and result in rejection, you'll also probably die, because this means you're expelled from society, and it will effectively signify a lonely, agonizing death from the lack of resources and group protection. Either way, death is waiting for those who fail in such situation. So if this theory is valid and true, it does explain why people could be afraid of catching the spotlight. But also, again, I think there is also even deeper reasoning for such fear. We talk about how a failed action under the spotlight could be nerve-cracking. But what about the opposite case? What if you don't fail? What if it goes all good and end up receiving all applauses? Then it is the exact opposite situation, right? So actually, I think the fundamental fear is actually the fear of being rejected, or the fear of not being correct and perfect. or the fear of making a fool of yourself, whatever way you want to call it. So I think looking back, my entire life has been a journey of avoiding unnecessary risks. By avoiding risks, such as the risk of standing in front of the public, I avoided the situation of putting myself in mental danger. To be fair, I was pretty good at it, and it got me where I am today. By conventional standard, I have a pretty good life, comfortable life, in an accepting social circle. But deep down, I know that I couldn't just let myself slip through my life without eventually confronting this fear. So here I stand today, although I'm actually sitting with notes and all, and pretty much deciding what I have prepared in advance. So. But I actually do feel indeed more comfortable now, and then I do feel that with practice, the mistakes and the errors will gradually fade away. But actually I have to correct myself. Actually, it isn't practical to expect perfection. Therefore, I think embracing the inevitable imperfection, meanwhile working towards the goal near perfection, I think this is my ultimate goal, and this will be something I'll be chasing for the lifelong journey of becoming a Toastmaster. Thank you.